In this episode of Weekly Poker Hand, we're going to take a look at a hand that Rampage Poker played at the PokerGO Studio in a $10,000 buy-in tournament against many of the best players in the world. As you see at this table, we have Negreanu, world-class player. We have Viral, a master of video blogging, and Jake Schindler eating some food as opponent for today. Let's get right to it.
To start off the fireworks on this table, I pick up King Jack offsuit in +1 and raise it up to 3,500.
Which is 2 point something big blinds. Nice standard small raise. We are playing 110,000 chips deep, so call it, 80 big blinds, give or take.
We get the cutoff and button to make the call here, so 3 ways out of position. The flop comes Jack 7-3, 2 diamonds. Pretty dry flop, and I have top pair, pretty good kicker, and out of position. There's definitely merit to betting, but I decided to just check.
You may wonder why he would possibly check his top pair, good kicker, out of position. But when you are out of position 3 ways, on any board that's not a lot of high cards, you should actually do a lot of checking. So I like this check very much from Rampage Poker.
Cutoff checks as well, and the button player bets out 3,500. By the way, this button player is another super high stakes crusher, Jake Schindler. As played here, facing this 3,500 chip bet, not going to do anything but make the call. Cutoff folds, and we're going heads up to a turn, which is the queen of clubs.
Slow down, Rampage. I definitely think there is some merit in putting in the check raise immediately. When you do check out of position, you are looking to check raise your best made hands that are vulnerable to being outdrawn, which is going to be a lot of hands like ace-jack, pocket queens, maybe king-jack. That said, I know that Jake enjoys a good bluff, so I would probably check and call against Jake because there are a lot of bluffs he could potentially have in this scenario that will continue betting on basically every turn. I mean, give him any flush draw or gut shot straight draw, right? So I like the idea of check calling against him, but I definitely think you do want to check raise some portion of the time with your hands like ace-jack and king-jack here because they're almost always good, but they're really vulnerable to being outdrawn. Turn to queen of clubs. Let's see what happens.
Just one of those very few overcards I certainly did not want to see, and I start off with a check. Now he bets out 21.5K. Whew.
Which is roughly the size of the pot.
Okay. Certainly, Jake here can have a lot of bluffs, and this is one of those cards that's kind of interesting and weird. Queen should be better for me, although I don't think I have many queens in range as I called on the flop. But it's also one of those overcards I didn't want to see and kind of handcuffs my hand to just second pair. As played here, he certainly can have a lot of bluffs, can have a lot of diamonds, and a hand like 10-9 of diamonds makes a lot of sense. That's now improved to a gut shot straight draw. So knowing that these good players can have a ton of bluffs, especially when they bet big, I'm not going to fold just yet with my pair jacks. I make the call and see a river.
I like the call. He says, these good players like to bluff. You know what I want to know? Who is the best good player you have ever played against? Pause the video and write in the comment section below. Who is the best player you played against? And if it was any fun. All right. Rampage makes the call, and I think it's a perfectly fine and reasonable call. The tough part about this is that I think Jake could actually have some hands like king-queen, very specifically. A hand that lacks showdown value but has a lot of backdoor flush draws. Also, we could easily have a hand like queen-10 or queen-9 suited, especially of spades, because those are hands that could reasonably go for a flop bluff, knowing they're going to turn a lot of equity. You could also have the diamonds, of course. So the queen's actually pretty rough, even though it does not complete any of the obvious draws. But I definitely think king-jack is just too good to fold in this spot. And to be fair, if I'm playing against Jake in this spot, especially if he's being somewhat active, which, sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. If he's being especially active, or if I think that he thinks I'm playing a little bit too big and that he can run me over, then I'm just going to find a call down.
The river comes the 5 of clubs. It's basically as brick as it gets. All of the draws miss, and I check it over to him, praying that he's going to give up and check back, but he does not. He goes all in for 68.5 thousand, and this is a miserable spot to be in.
So this is another pot-sized bet. Notice that Jake uses bet sizes that make it pretty reasonable to get it all in by the river. A lot of people screw up on the turn and bet really small, and then they have a gigantic stack on the river and can't necessarily get in a shove. But this is a spot where I definitely think if you give Jake a hand like King Queen, he's going to shove it all in for value on the river. And that allows him to get in more bluffs as well. So even though there are a lot of bluffs he could potentially have, the best players will take hands like any queen and just value shove it on the river, which I think is a good strong play because it puts a lot of Rampage's logical hands like ace jack, king jack, jack 10, jack 9, etc. that would check call the flop in a really, 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 really bad spot. However, against all the best players in the world, I am actually happy to check call turn, and I am happy to check call river, assuming it does not complete any of the draws, because I think they probably overbluff a little bit to some extent, especially if they think that you're playing too big, or you may play scared, or you may find a big fold on the river. So I think this is just an easy call on the river. You're going to lose a lot of the time, but you have to realize you're getting decent pot odds to where you only need to be good about 35% of the time. And I don't know the exact percentage of the time you're good in this scenario against Jake in this spot, but it's probably more like 38% or 40%. And if you go around folding when you're good 48% of the, or 40% of the time, but you only need to be good 35% of the time, well, that's not going to work out for you, and that's going to work out such that the good players stay good players and win little bits of equity off of you over and over and over. So I think you got to find the call.
I count out my chip stack, and I cover him by a small margin, and I think things over for a long time. Essentially, I'm just bluff catching here with a pair of jacks, and I pretty much just lose to sets or maybe even Queen X if he really wanted to get max value with top pair here, as I'd assume Queen X would be the nuts.
He would go for full value here, I gotta presume. I mean, like, if I'm sitting in his shoes, I would go for full value, and a lot of the best players in the world go for even thinner value than I do. So if I'm going for thin value with any queen, you can be sure that the best players are going to be going for the value.
On top of that, I guess I also lose to two pair combos like Queen Jack as well, but there's not a whole lot here that I lose to. I beat all of the missed diamonds, all of the missed straight draws, and if he's only repping super strong hands here, it's hard for him to have it every single time, and I think I have a pretty good candidate to bluff catch here, as I also don't have any diamonds in my hand. I tank it up for a long time, I use a time extension, and ultimately, I don't think this is a spot where I can fold. I make the call, and he shows us pocket sevens. He had one of those really strong value hands, and I give him a full double up early on in this session, and now I am down to only 10 big blinds.
Yeah, well, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You got to realize pot odds exist. Whenever you have a reasonable bluff catcher like Rampage does, you just have to find the call. And I have to say, if you do not find the call here against some of the good, strong battling opponents that you will encounter at the high stakes, you are going to get run over. So good job by Rampage making the call, even though he lost almost all of his money. Poker's a tough game, huh? That's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button below. Huge thanks to Rampage Poker for letting us use this content. We'll link to his video below as well. He gets in there, he battles hard, and he is really, really fun to watch. Good luck. I hope all of your hero calls succeed, even though they probably won't.